The theme of the weekend is winning the game of life, and we're kind of using the metaphor of a football field and learning how to march our businesses down the field. We thought it would be great if you could experience the amazing similarities that professional athletes have with our business. And we were fortunate enough to get one of the best here with us, someone who's played professionally on that field. He's succeeded in business as well. He's now a coach in football, so he's played professionally, and now he's taking that passion and helping other young athletes, become better men. And he's just it's going to be remarkable as you see some similarities in our business and in life. So let's give a warm welcome to Mr. Eric Van Tassel. This is just a real treat. Eric, I'm sure your days of playing on the field, you have some fond memories, and now maybe you can share some of those with all of us. And you just got an incredible audience who's looking to improve their game. And I found Eric as I was doing some research on finding the best personal trainer, coach that I could for my son. And after several phone calls and talking to other NFL players and personal coaches, they said, if you want the best receiver coach in the country, you need to get a hold of Eric Van Tassel. So he's just a great coach, and he's doing a lot of good for shaping young men and their character now as a coach. And I just thought, Eric, maybe we could just start off, since no one knows you, and you probably think we're a little bit crazy, don't you? You think
all successful people are crazy, so
awesome.
That's good.
And Eric's sick, but he's a champion because he shows up anyways, because he told me this week, he said, I'll be there. And even though he's sick, he's here. So that's another insight into champions. So,
yeah, bear with me. I woke up this morning and felt like something had crawled down inside my throat. So
yeah, you'll be okay.
I will be. Yeah. I've played with words.
Yeah. So just for an audience who doesn't know you, maybe just a little bit on your background, where you grew up, and just a little bit on your background.
Well, for all you Bronco fans, I grew up in Littleton, Colorado. I actually grew up next door to Joe Collier. Do you guys remember him? Anybody from Denver? He used to be the defensive coordinator of the Denver Broncos. I grew up with his son, Joel Jr., who is now the assistant general manager with the Kansas City Chiefs. So I was introduced to the game at a very, very young age. I think I was 6, 7 years old. And couldn't figure out, when I was that age, we used to go down in Joel Jr.'s basement, and there's a projector set up there with this is back in the day, Jiminy Christmas, I'm giving away my age. This is back when you had a clicker and you made a reel go forward and backwards. And it was actually, film. And we'd go down there and we'd play with the film. We thought it was cool to make the guys run forwards and backwards and, like a video game. We had no idea the significance of it, that it was actually his father's game film to watch of the upcoming opponent. So I was introduced to it at a very young age. Grew up in Denver, spent most of my life there.
Awesome. So you kind of answered the second question. At what age maybe did you start to realize that, gosh, I kind of have a talent for this game or a passion for it? Were you real young, playing like Pop Warner, or was it a little later on in life?
I started at 7 years old. And so I was one of the ones who started very, very young. And I was first introduced to the game by a neighbor friend of mine. I went to his house. We were playing in his backyard. We went upstairs into his room. I think you've heard this story. I don't know if I've told this or not, but this is how I got introduced to football. Went up into his room, and I saw a really funny-looking pair of underwear hanging on the back of like off the edge of his bed. And I'm like, how come that underwear doesn't have any backs to it? He said, that's not underwear, stupid. When you're a kid, you say stuff like that.
So you were introduced to a jock strap, and that
Exactly.
that ignited the passion for football.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Because I was basically, well, what else do you wear with that?
Unless he was a sumo wrestler.
Yeah, so he showed me his helmet and his shoulder pads, and of course I wanted to try it on. I thought it was the coolest thing, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I thought I looked like a warrior. So I ran back home, down in the street to back to my house, and started yelling at my dad. I want to play football. I had no idea what it was about. I just decided I wanted to play football, wear a jockstrap, and all that good stuff. So.
And a helmet and shoulder pads and look like a warrior.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Maybe you could start off with this, because we're basically, you're talking to a group of people that were players and we're coaches. We're playing in the field, but yet we're coaching people also. Maybe you could tell us what coach in your life, I mean, it could be Pop Warner through playing professionally, what coach had the biggest impact on you and why?
That's very easy. That was my high school head coach, because I hated him. And let me tell you, there are things that, when I've listened to this whole event tonight, and there's so many things that correlate between sports and business. It's because I've done both. And I hated my high school head coach. And he was my biggest influence because he told me I couldn't do it.
Wow.
And man, you want to talk about something that's probably when I really knew that I had what it took, because that just made me mad.
Yeah.
I mean, and it just lit a fire under my rear. And I loved the game. I loved playing the game more than anything else. Never cared about playing for money. That was never a major goal. I wanted to play the game for as long as I possibly could. But, here's a guy that, don't ever let anybody tell you what you can't do. It's not up to them. It's up to you.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
You're the one. Right here. When I evaluate athletes nowadays, and this is the thing about his son that separates his son at a very young age. I've never worked with a kid his age who has that drive. And that's not a genetic thing. That's passed down. So he's successful for a reason. And his son will follow in his footsteps. Successful people follow in the footsteps of other successful people. And don't ever listen to somebody tell you no, ever. I don't believe in that word.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. You really hit us with that when you said your high school coach because you couldn't stand him. Do you think he ever found out about your success later on?
I hope he's watching right now.
Yeah. And I guess that doesn't matter. But anyways, it's just yeah. Or it kind of does. Yeah. Well, and it's funny, Eric, because, I mean, we have naysayers. We start our business and we have people, I know I did, I'm sure all you guys have, that say, oh, what are you doing that for? Or do you realize how many people actually make it in that? And so it's just striking, though, that a coach who's there to pull the best out of his team was not that way.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of people in general, not just coaches, that do certain things for the wrong reason. They do it because they don't like themselves, and so they become chest beaters. That's what I call them. When I last coached professionally, I think it was in 2008. I was the head coach of an arena football team back east, and I got out of it because professional sports at that level, I'd never wanted to coach in the NFL, let's put it that way, because those guys are nuts. I mean, they have no life, and I want somewhat of a life. And you're dedicating 80 to 100 hours a week to coach at that level. Never wanted to do that, never had that desire. But when I got out of coaching, I didn't think it was a bad experience. I didn't like dealing with the professional aspect at that level. And when I got out of it, I didn't know if I wanted to coach again until I got offered to coach at a high school in the area. And it was a kid who I had coached at junior college. His brother, this is up at Orange Glen High School, his brother's the head coach there, and he'd asked me if I'd come help him out. And my first question to him was, do you have any egomaniacs on your staff? He said, no, they're all good guys. I said, okay, well, then I'll take a look at it because, I don't like to be around people like that because it's all about them. And that's not the point about anything that's a team sport. This is a team sport. And what I've always told my players or my teams is that you play for one another. If you have somebody who's playing for themselves, then I'll show you a guy that's not going to be very successful, or at least a team that's not going to be very successful, if they allow that person to stay. You've got to put a guy like that back in line. You play for the guy on the left and the right of you. And a great coach makes his players realize that he has their best interest in mind and not his own. They will play their butts off for you if they understand. And we're jumping ahead. We went over some of the questions he's going to ask me, and I think we're already covering that. But I'm a coach, so I get on a roll. But anyway, you can't have an ego like that.
Yeah.
Confidence, yes. Lots of self-confidence. Arrogance and being egotistical, no.
Yeah, so when your players know, when the kids know, man, he's got my back, he's got my best interest at heart, then they tend to perform.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not about me. It's about them. Yeah. And it's about the team. And I realize that if they understand that and they understand that I care for their best interest, they're going to play harder for me. Yeah. It's a win-win if you understand that concept.
Yeah. I went on to the NFL Players Association, did a little research, and I found out that the odds of playing professionally football are really low. It said out of 100,000 high school senior athletes this year, 210 of them will end up on an NFL roster. So how many know that's some pretty ridiculous odds, right? How many people have told you, like, what are the odds of you making it in that? And yet people who set their mind to it, their odds are 100%, right? If they've got that passion. But I guess the question that I wrote down here is, what are some of the things that you did to beat the odds? Like what did you do, Eric Van Tassel, to beat those odds, to be one of the few that actually make it to the professional level?
It's one of the things I touched on earlier. I didn't accept no as an answer. I just didn't. I wasn't going to let anybody tell me what I couldn't do. I was going to determine that, and if at least if I went out there and gave it a shot and didn't succeed, I can feel good about the fact that I gave it 100%. Because you don't ever want to look back on life. You don't ever want to look back and say, man, if I'd have just only done this.
Yeah.
Because if you look at your watch, and every time that hand clicks, it doesn't ever go backwards. So you never get that second back. Part of the reason why I'm probably sick is because I've been up till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning every night for the last 3 weeks because of a new business venture that I'm working on. And I don't want to sleep. When I'm doing stuff like that, I just want to do it. I want to make it happen. And you can't. I mean, there's certain things that you can sacrifice to if you want to be great, there are sacrifices. But boy, I'll tell you, they're worth it, when you succeed. And I just worked harder. I heard a great quote, pardon me, I heard a great quote from Jerry Rice one time. He was talking to a bunch of guys, and
those of you who don't know who Jerry Rice is, anybody wearing his jersey, by the way? Oh, yeah, we got a couple. Probably known as maybe one of the best football players to ever play the game.
Yeah, he was a level above. How many people know Jerry Rice? Well, he happens to be one of the guys that I, as a receiver coach that I studied and watched. He's a fabulous player. And there's a reason why he's here and everybody else is here. There's a reason why there are certain NFL players or certain professional players in any sport that are here, that make it into the Hall of Fame, that are a level above even, guys that play 10, 15 years. And the question that he was asked, or actually the comments that were being made about him, were these guys are, you're the greatest in NFL history. You're the greatest NFL player. You're the greatest receiver. His response was, No, I wasn't. I just worked the hardest, that's what separates those guys. Because everybody who walks on that field is talented. And a matter of fact, there are a lot of guys, I played various forms of professional football for 3 years, and then that was it. I had an injury basically in my career, broke 2 ribs and collapsed the right lung, returning a punt, and that's probably why I'm susceptible to all these darn things. But but if anybody asked me, if anybody said, listen, if you knew you were going to do that stuff, would you do it? And I said, yeah, I'd do it all over again. Yeah. No questions asked, because what I learned from the game that's translated or it's transcended, everything I do. It's taught me more than anything ever has, playing the sport, as far as desire and drive, motivation, understanding how hard you have to work for something, starting at point A and finishing at point B, all these things. I mean, I go on and on and on about analogies, but.
And when I think Dean was up here talking about unconsciously competent, and Dean was at 10,000 hours or, to become great at something. And so everybody's got a certain amount of talent, right? That's playing college ball or whatever. So everybody's got that great amount of talent. You're just saying that what separates them to really make it to the next level.
Yeah. There are a lot of guys who have the ability to play in the NFL. Unfortunately, it's a numbers game, just like anything. I mean, you get 32 teams, you've got about 53 guys on an active roster, you do the math. You've got millions of kids playing football in between Pop Warner and high school and college. You've got a lot. Yeah, so it's a numbers game. There are a lot of guys around out there walking around out there, have the physical ability. I mean, they'll cut you for dropping one pass in an entire training camp if that's the difference between you and the guy that didn't. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't play. They got to come up with a reason why you can't be on the roster and the other guy can be. So there's a real fine line that separates it. Like the 40-yard dash, the difference between a 4.5 40 and a 4.4 40 is about that much. It's not that much. Yeah. So.
What advice would you give us? Because I think that the people that turn up to an event or are watching this broadcast, you're someone that you got on an airplane today, or you drove a while, or you're tuning in live because you have a hunger. There's something inside of you that you want to beat the odds and make it at this. And I believe you've already separated yourself from hundreds and hundreds of others, or thousands of others, just by coming here this weekend. And maybe what advice would you give all of us if we want to beat those odds and make it to that next level?
Understanding what it takes and realizing, prioritizing and realizing that anything worthwhile isn't handed to you. There are some people who win the lottery. There's some people who inherit. They're lucky. I would, if I won the lottery or if I inherited money, I would still bust my butt to create my own wealth. I'd set that stuff aside and I'd create my own wealth. Mm-hmm. Because that's just me. Yeah. I don't want any handouts, and you have to bust your rear to do that. I've got a really good question, because I ask a lot of my athletes this, and I'm always interested to see what kind of an answer that I get. We all know that it's a lot harder to go up the mountain than it is to go down it. Most people, they get halfway up that mountain and they turn around and say, screw this. Yeah. And they go back down because it's too difficult for them. And that those people drop off the higher you go on that mountain, the more they drop off. And that's why there's a very small percentage of people that are extremely successful, because they have what it takes. But my question to you would be, if you climb the mountain and you get to the top of the mountain, and you sit down and you understand that it's been a great accomplishment, and you're relaxing in your easy chair up there. I don't know how you'd get an easy chair up if you're climbing the mountain, but
strap it on your back.
Yeah, but anyway. But you're sitting there and you're enjoying the view. What do you see? as you sit there and look around? A lot more mountains. Yeah, life is not just one mountain. You climb one, you can't be satisfied. You climb one, then it's off to the next one. I mean, that's what I do.
Yeah.
I accomplish one thing, it's off to the next accomplishment. So you see all these mountains, I'm going to get excited about that. Like, I go climb that one.
Yeah.
I can go climb that one. And that's what's fun. Life is a constant challenge, and that's the advice that I would give you is when you succeed at one thing, don't think that it's over at that point in time. From the top of that mountain, looking around and relish in the fact that you have other mountains to climb, because I tell you what, life would really be boring if there's only one mountain. It really would be. Yeah.
There's an author that we've read, and maybe some of you have heard of Dennis Waitley, and he wrote a book called The Psychology of Winning. And he opens up that book and he says, the word winning is oftentimes misunderstood. And maybe even as you purchase a ticket to come this week and you're like, winning the game of life, if I win, someone else has to lose. And Dennis Waitley in his book says that's absolutely the furthest from the truth, because when you win, when you become your best, you elevate others, right? Making it to the top and inspiring other people along the way. That's what I love about team sports. And really the message that you're communicating with us here, Eric. Let's see. So I've seen you coach a little bit. I've seen you around the kids, and I've seen I've seen other coaches coach, and there's something that you do, and I'm still trying to figure it out, that they respond to you. Like the kids, you could tell they want to make you proud, right? And I think in our business, I think there's something that we could learn from this, because I wanted to perform on the field. I wanted them to give me a high five, an attaboy. Hey, I'm proud of you, And I see that same thing with the way you coach the kids. They just respond to you. And what do you think that is? I mean, just as you've seen maybe other coaches or maybe some dysfunctional teams, what do you think it is why do the kids respond to you that way?
Well, I'm offering them an extra $20 behind your back.
That's what it is.
I think I answered that question already earlier. They understand that I have their best interest in mind, which I really, honest to God, I do, because I wouldn't do it for any other reason. I don't do it for me. I do it because I love to see the smile on a kid's face when he gets it. Or when I teach him something and he goes and he has success on the field with it, whatever that may be, blocking somebody, scoring a touchdown, making a catch, it doesn't really matter. And he comes running off a field with a big grin on his face, and all the other guys are slapping him on the butt and telling him he did a great job and all that. And just that's all a result of what it is that you teach him. And so, that's why. I think it's genuine, and I think people know when it's genuine. And when you really do it for the right reasons, and you're really coaching, and I call it teaching, because that's what you're doing. You're teaching. Great coaches are great teachers, and there's only probably, and this is my opinion, at every level, I'd say there's only about 20% of them that really are, great, that understand that and they teach, and they're there really only for the guys. They're not there for themselves. There's a very, very small percentage of people who do it right at anything, regardless of the career, regardless of the situation.
So let me ask you a question. This is this is just off the cuff. So you see a coach, a kid drops a pass, and you hear a coach say, "Catch the ball." And so he makes a mistake. So, we see that in our business. We see people, they drop a pass, they drop an opportunity, whatever. So it's like, well, I knew I should have caught the ball, but what do you tell a kid? So he doesn't come off with a smile on his face. He's hanging his head coming off. How do you handle that?
Well, I tell him what he has to do to catch it. I tell him, how he has to do it right the next time. You hear it all the time, the coaches that are screaming, catch the damn ball, and yelling at the kid he's running, or whatever it may be, whatever position. That's not coaching. That's not teaching. That's, that's exercising your own ego if you're a coach who does it that way. And that means you care more about yourself. If you stop the kid as he comes off the field and you'd say, son, let me tell you exactly what you have to do so that doesn't happen again. Here's what you did wrong. Here's what you need to do right. And then you go out and you'll catch the next one. And that all translates to, letting the kids know that you have their best interest in mind because you're teaching them how to do it right.
Yeah. So I think for us, if our people, the people that have been entrusted into our care, those who've registered, if they really feel like, man, this guy's got my best interests at heart, that's just huge, and the people can sense that. I heard Dean up here earlier. I think it was Dean. He said something about being in the zone. And things kind of slow down for many. Talk about being in the zone. Just another off-the-cuff question. When you hear that, or as an athlete, what does that mean, really, in the zone? And because I think we could learn from it too, where things are just going right. Like, man, I'm in the zone.
Yeah. Well, for me, and that's an easy question to relate to because as a receiver, there's an element of concentration involved with what you do. Not only are you, you have to get off the line of scrimmage, run your pass route the right way, but then you also have to catch the ball amongst a bunch of guys who want to kill you, basically. And they do. They really do.
Yeah.
You have no idea what goes on at the bottom of the pile. Some of these guys really literally should be arrested for some of the stuff that they do at the bottom of the pile. But I guess, it's like anything. If you don't get caught, you're not guilty. So it's a pretty brutal sport. Being in the zone is really, I've played in front of crowds of thousands and thousands of people and don't even realize it. You're running across the middle of the field and that ball's heading your way and that's all you see. You're not paying attention to the cheerleaders and you're not, you don't see the people in the stands. Matter of fact, the play's over with and you don't even realize how it happened until you go back and you watch the game film. A lot of times I wouldn't even remember how a play would happen until I went back and watched the film. The whole game, that's the whole game. I can remember a lot of my catches and a lot of the things that I did. Going all the way back to the time I was 7, I remember a lot of plays. But being in the zone really is you're focused so much on the task at hand that you just, there could be a naked girl running right by you and you wouldn't even notice it, honestly.
Yeah. It's like the one video earlier where he said, when you want something so bad, you'll give up sleep. Maybe you miss a meal because you're so focused. And I think there's just a zone that you can get into when you throw all the odds in your favor and you're like, I'm going to succeed. That's it, period. And you look in the mirror, you're a champion, and you start building that confidence. You definitely get into that zone. The same thing, I think, can happen in business. Because I can look at periods of time where it's like, and then I look back and I go, I can't believe we added 300 people to our business that month, or whatever. And you look back at the film and go, wow. The great thing is we can do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I've been blessed with the opportunity to do is with what I do for a living now is I've been to a lot of places around the world and I've seen a lot of things that not a lot of Americans have the opportunity to see. I've been in former communist countries like Croatia. I was recently in Brazil, and let me tell you, take advantage of the opportunity that you guys have here because you don't realize how lucky you are to live in this country. I've had the opportunity to speak with kids from high school level to the professional level, all the levels that I've coached at, and I don't allow them to use any type of an excuse for failure, particularly based on the opportunities that we have in this country. In other words, I remember a kid, and I've been a mentor of his for many, many years. And I coached him in high school way back, and he's married and very successful. Had I not been there for him, he'd probably, who knows, because his parents weren't there for him, but I was. And he's now married and successful with a family, and I still talk to a lot of the guys that I've coached over the years, and it's a great relationship. That's one of the things that's really nice about what I do when I was actively coaching. And one of the things that he was talking about, he's African American, and one of the things that he was talking about is, well, you know, the opportunities aren't as great for some versus others in this country. And I said, Roderick, we have a free education in this country. You have the ability to start in an elementary school to control your own destiny by how well you do in school. The sports, there's, it's 1 in 35,000 want to make it in the NFL or make it to the professional level. You can control your future by what you do academically, though. And we have a free education. And when I take trips to places like Sao Paulo, Brazil, which is where I was last, and I see 30 million people stuffed into a city, that's literally how many, it's the biggest city I've ever seen in my life. It makes New York look like a speck. Yeah. Anybody here been to Sao Paulo? It's skyscrapers for as far as the eye can see. It's ridiculous. But you also see the poverty and the fact that they don't have those opportunities. They can't drive a half a mile and go to an elementary school and get a free education. It's not there. It's not there. It's not in Croatia. And it's not in a lot of other countries that I've done work in. You can't even get, you take for granted here the fact that we have simple tools and things that we have here that you can go to Home Depot and buy. They don't even have that stuff in other countries. The Middle East, I've been to Doha, Qatar, and the poverty, the areas of that city that it's scary. Some of the stuff that you see there in Sao Paulo, and the poverty is ridiculous. But they don't have the opportunities there. They don't have a free education like we do here. That's what's so great about the country. This country that I've seen is the opportunity that we do have. And man, when you have an opportunity that's basically thrown right in front of you, like, you guys have this opportunity with this business, why would you not want, what I've never understood is why would you not want to be the best at anything?
And, it's interesting, Eric, as Eric has had the opportunity to, make a difference in kids' lives that, maybe their parents weren't there for them, like that example, or just others that they probably look back on like I do, my high school years, and go, man, that really formed me as a person. And yet, the thing that we're doing, enriching people's lives, looking someone in the eye and telling them you believe in them, that you're, hey, I got your back, we could do this thing together, you and me. Everyone else can quit, you and me, we'll go make it happen. There's not many people out there doing that. And that's why you really are a coach. These things that Eric is talking about, you are that just in a different capacity for other people. And so just understand Just understand how much power you really do have as you're out sharing this business. And as last question, kind of a lighter side, you're not in the game, you're coaching now, so you're still kind of, you're in that, the smell of the locker room and stuff like that, the grass, the stuff I remember, patting guys on the butt, hitting them on the helmet. What do you miss? What do you miss about the game? What do you miss about game day?
Yeah, you miss the camaraderie. Every football player will tell you they miss the camaraderie that you have with the guys. But I think that's, a lot of times, that's just an easy answer for guys to give. Yeah, I miss the camaraderie. Of course you do. But if you want to get a little bit more detailed with it, then, I miss the smell of the grass on game day. I miss preparing for the game on a Saturday. I actually enjoyed practice. I didn't mind it. But I missed getting to the locker room 2-3 hours before the game and, you know, putting on my jock strap. You know, that sounds bad, but...
Yeah. You could have said, like, lacing up your cleats or something, yeah. But you had to do the jockstrap thing.
Well, it just didn't tie in as well. I mean, that was a good tie-in to when I was 7, and the reason why I started. But yeah, just you know, being in the locker room before the game and preparing for the game, or the night before the game. You know, that motivational video that they showed before I came up. I mean, that fired me up still. And listen, if you watch a video like that and it fires you up, whether you're a football player or not, it doesn't matter. Yeah. If that fires you up, then you're enough of a competitor that you'll be successful at what it is that you attempt. Yeah. And so I would send, if I were you, Brad, I would send everybody that film.
Yeah.
And before you're ready to go out and do sales calls or whatever it is y'all do, watch that video.
I got to teach him a few things. Yeah, he's getting it.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anything in closing? Any last thoughts you wanted to share with this incredible audience you're speaking to?
Yeah, actually, you know, it's funny. I had a couple guys come up and thank me for being here, and you know, really, honestly, I want to thank them, because anytime I have the opportunity to be around people that are looking to be the best that they can be at something, that's my kind of group of people. So it's been a pleasure for me.
He's in the right room. All right, you guys. Thank you, Eric. Awesome. And he might even sign your jersey if you want. So I'll bring it.